Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.wordpress.com, back again with another Sunday scoring project, and this time it's showcasing the Tasty Trucks from Bration in a shadow box card, which is one I made recently for a blog hop around the Bration items. And as you can see here, it's got dimension to it, so you've actually got a recess for the picture, and on the side you've got a card, so that actually will help protect it if you're going to post it as well. And then we open up, and I've trimmed the back of it just to match in with the card, and we've decorated the inner panel as well. So that's the project we're going to make. I'm going to make it in centimetres. I will put the measurements in inches on my blog as well. If I can, I will try and go through them as we go through, but it's not always easy to spot the directions because they're written down on a piece of paper. So to start off with then, you're going to need a piece of card which is 29 by 14 centimetres, 11.5 by 5.5, which you're going to score along the long edge. So we need our extender bar, and you're going to score it at 14 and 15 centimetres. So that's 14 and 15 centimetres. So if you're working in inches, you're going to be scoring at 5.5 and 6 inches. The reason I'm doing it in centimetres is because in the UK, on our cutting bar here, we only have centimetres. Although we have inches up here and centimetres, we only have centimetres. That makes it a little bit difficult to read out the dimensions at the same time. Once you have done that, you're then going to be cutting the aperture on the front of the card here. So this here is actually made by cutting. So when it's in portrait, you're going to line up at 2.5 centimetres on the right hand side, and which is at 1 inch, and you're going to score, don't cut, definitely score from 2.5, she says cutting, from 2.5 to 11.5. Okay, and then on the left, so you're going to move it over to 2.5 here. You're going to repeat that, so from 2.5 to 11.5. Turn it landscape with your scoring on the right, line up at 2.5 again, and again score from 2.5, so it's between these two score lines, to 11.5. And then you're going to line up at it's a horrible measurement, it's 17.5, so it's just over the join. So line that up and repeat that score again. So 2.5 down to 11.5. You're then going to repeat that again at 3.5 centimetres. So with the scoring at the top, because you haven't got a 3.5 on the side here, turn it to portrait, and at 3.5 centimetres, you're going to score from 3.5 down to 10.5. You're then going to line up at 10.5 and score again. So 3.5 down to 10.5. Rotate it so that your scoring is on the left, and then you're going to repeat that. So at 3.5, score from 3.5 to 10.5, and then at 10.5, again 3.5 to 10.5. So that's your scoring that you need to do. What you're now going to need to do is cut the diagonals. So you can do this on your trimmer. What I recommend you do is you line up this top corner here and this bottom one here. So line that up with the groove. Hopefully you can see just here I'm lining up. And you're going to put your cutting blade in the middle there, and making sure you don't move it, which I have just done. You need to cut those diagonals. Now what I do is I often come a little bit short, because then I can come in with my scissors if I need to. Okay, but better that than go over it. Turn it round and repeat again. So line up with the groove at the top and with the first score line at the bottom here. Again, cutting blade in the middle. So you've then got a cut through the middle there. Okay, so I'm just going to come in with my paper snips and just cut right into those corners. And then once you've done that, you're going to fold and burnish. Okay, so fold that out. And on that one you can see I haven't quite cut far enough into the corner, so just ease that. It won't matter because you're going to be trimming it. You can trim it just back. And then fold it back on itself. So you fold it back on this one and then forward on the other one. So back and forward. And really good idea to burnish these well, because it's going to make you need to make a good box shape. So that's your basic card. Fold and burnish our middle section. And there you go. What you're going to need to do now is fill in the middle and fill in the reverse. So to do that, you're going to need a piece of card which is 9 by 9 centimetres, and I've cut a piece of contrasting card here, so the Peekaboo Peach, and I've got some Calypso Coral, and on the reverse I'm actually going to use the same colour card. So what I do is bring your, I'm actually going to use Fuse for this, and you're going to put it on that inner triangle like so. And then what I recommend is you pop one side in and fit it into the corner like so. Just see there, and then you'll see you push down, and I find it easier to do it from the reverse and then give it a good press down. So on the reverse you're going to use a piece of cardstock as well, and just cover that up with at the back, so we can do that at the end. So now to make these borders here, you're actually going to take some card and DSP and take a square, and then you're going to gut it and cut the diagonals to get those diagonal pieces. So to do that you need a piece of DSP, and the card you're going to use is 13.5 by 13.5, and you want to line up at 11.5 centimetres on the left, and you're going to cut from 2 to 11.5 centimetres. So this is what we call gutting, so 2 down to 11.5, and just repeat that. So again, line up at 11.5 and 2 down to the bottom. Repeat. And 11.5 again. And obviously your little pointer is what you're using there. So again, if you haven't quite cut into the corners, then all you do is just come in with your scissors to release your card. So that's your frame. So all you do is you cut diagonally on each of these, and that is then going to create your layers to go around your card. So if you do that gives you your 4 pieces of card, and then you're going to use the same process with your DSP. So I've got a piece of DSP which is 12.5 by 12.5, and you're actually going to line up at 11.5, cut from 1.5 to 11. Okay, so it's just a narrow border. It's 1.5 centimetres, so it's actually at 11 centimetres. Yeah, 1.5 here. So it's 11 centimetres. You're going to cut from 1.5 down to 11. And what I would recommend is when you do this, because obviously it is a directional pattern, that we don't push the centre out and cut our panels until we're ready to layer them up. Okay. So when you've got your panel like this, cut out, put our 4 frame pieces like so, and then come in and cut the frame and layer them on each piece as you go around. And that gives you a piece of DSP that you're going to use shortly. So all we need to do now is attach that to our DSP onto, and you'll see there you get this nice border all the way around. And again, as soon as you've done one piece, I recommend you come in and adhere it onto the front of the card. And what I do there is I centre it on the bottom line. So again, just create those layers. And because this part isn't moving, so it's not got any tension on it, then it's quite easy. You don't need to use the fuse on it because it's not under any sort of strain. You can just add those layers. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could always layer these up on dimensionals if you wanted to give some extra dimension. But I have just chosen to. And obviously, you could make this a book fold opening if you wanted to, like so. I just thought it looked nice to be standing up a bit more like a picture. You can have it on a mantelpiece, or as one of my friends suggested, you could in fact, pop it in a shadow box frame, a permanent frame, and it would make a lovely piece of wall art in a child's bedroom. So once you've done your frame, all that's left to do now is to decorate the front. Okay, so we've put our layer into the centre here, which is 9 by 9. We're then going to put a piece of card in there which is slightly smaller, in the same colour as the card base, and that layer is 8.5 by 8.5. Just layer that in there. Obviously it could be easier. You could do that before you actually created your frame. Probably would have been easier for me. And then the centre piece that you cut out of your DSP, you're going to trim that down to 8 by 8 centimetres. And that way obviously you're not wasting that lovely DSP that you've got in the middle there. And that's going to go in like so. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my layer to go in the middle, which I've already, after my other attempt at colouring on camera, I've already stamped in Memento and coloured in. But what I've done, I think you can see it there, is I have, try that, you can see a slight gloss. So that's where I've actually used fine tip glue to colour in to give the effect of the windows. And I have stamped and cut the shapes out on some DSP. So this is when I just use fine tip glue to give us a bit of wiggle room as we try, and I have cut a layer there of contrast DSP. And another piece, and this is the Cupcakes and Carousels DSP, which is all sort of fun, kind of funfair kind of colours and sort of candy floss and cupcakes. And that creates our little tasty truck, which you then just pop up on some dimensionals. to give it a bit of dimension, strangely enough. And this is where you use your outer edge of the dimensionals, or you can use our sticky strip, which is the long piece of sticky strip as well, and just pop those little pieces on the edge there, because you only need half a dimensional on these narrow pieces. So just a little bit there and another piece there. So all of a sudden, you're sort of quite boring white truck here. I've used the fine tip glue on the wheels as well once I've coloured with a black marker. Just pop that up and all of a sudden you get a lovely 3D effect on your van. So I'm going to put my glue onto my DSP here because obviously that's got dimension on it, then we're not going to get very far with that. And what I'm then going to do is pop this up on some dimensionals to go in the centre of our card. So there's our card, and all I'm doing is just taking off those. Make sure your card's opening the way you want it to, and then pop your layer in like so. So there's our Tasty Trucks card. It's a 3D shadow card, and all that's left is for you to finish off the inside there. And in order to do that, you're going to need a piece of 9x9 cardstock, which you'll adhere on the outside. And I've cut 4 strips, this is the important bit, which you're going to use to trim the edges. So I've cut 4 strips of card, which are 1 centimetre wide, and I've scored them in half. And what you do now is, using some wet glue, and again you can use the fine tip glue, is you just pop those around the edge of the box. And the reason for that is you've got a little gap here, and if you fill it in, you just hardly notice that gap, whereas you can see it on the top corner here, perhaps not so much with the light, but once you've got it filled in, it looks so much neater. So that's just a simple case of 4 strips of card, which are, as I say, they're 1 centimetre wide, and I cut a piece 9 by 4 centimetres, so score it at 4.5 and then cut into 1 centimetre strips, and then just pop some glue around those and just hold those in place just for a second or so while it adheres. That one looks a little wider than 1 centimetre actually. Yes, it is. I haven't cut that one very accurately. It's surprising how you can sort of see. So again, pop that in there, and let's say just hold it for a few seconds and you'll see those just butt up almost together, not quite perfectly, but they just neaten off the edge, and all I'm going to do is just trim that down, this one down by hand. There you go. And pop that in the corner there. So you could use a contrast piece of card if you wanted to out on the inside. I prefer to use the same colour again, because I just think it looks so much neater. Well, I'm just cutting off camera. There we go. And you just pop your piece of card and just adhere that down with I usually use tape on the back there. Decorate the inside of the card as you would like, and there you have a pretty card that hopefully anybody would be pleased to receive. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon, and bye for now. Don't forget, if you need any of your supplies, visit my online shop. Thanks, bye bye.